There's a small one down in there. Doesn't look like it's doing so hot, so I'm going to take it anyway. Sometimes I'll leave the smaller ones and come back in a few days and see if they have gotten bigger. Particularly if we're going to get some rain. But you're taking a chance if you do that. First of all, some kind of animal could find it and eat it. Animals do eat these. Or a person, another morel hunter, could come by and find it. So, once in a while, if I find a really small one and I know we're going to get some rain, I'll leave it and just plan to come back in a few days. But a lot of times I'll just take them. Gotta look carefully. They can be hiding so well sometimes. In fact, look at that. There's one that looks like it's laying right down. Probably because it started growing underneath. I see. I don't know if you can see. This little vine was keeping it from standing upright. So it just kind of grew sideways. Well, I'm back about 4 or 5 days later to that same spot that I was filming at, and I was hoping they'd be back in greater numbers, but they're not yet. But I do find a couple decent sized ones. Just wanted to get some footage of a larger one or two. There's a pretty good sized one right there. Now I do want to show you. If you take this and cut it open, completely hollow inside. I know that looks like it's just because the stem was folding in on itself, but the stems of the true morels are completely hollow, all the way up to the tip. And so I show you that because I'm going to show you what a false morel looks like. Alright, so this is the false morel. It's in the family Geomitra, and it has a substance in it called geomitrin, which is poisonous. It can affect the kidneys, the liver, the central nervous system, and has a carcinogenic effect, which obviously can be cancer causing. Some people actually eat these and have no ill effects. Other people it will make sick right away. But the experts say that even if you can eat them and not suffer the ill effects, that you shouldn't, because it can build up in your system over time and take its toll on you when you're older. So you can see it has a very large stalk. It's much more brain-like, where the morel is more honeycomb-like, with smaller pits and holes. But if you cut it open lengthways, you can see that the stems of these are not purely hollow. They have chambers and little hollow spots in them, but as I showed you already, the morel is completely hollow inside. So that's what the false morel looks like, just so you know. Like I said, I would not recommend eating them, even if you have eaten them before and haven't had ill effects. Okay, so I showed you a false morel, and right now I want to show you, this is actually a real morel. But you can see how it kind of resembles that false morel. It's just because it was kind of growing up down in between some rocks where it didn't have room to really grow upward. It got kind of smushed between some rocks and just kind of grew whichever way it could. But it actually is a real one, not a false one. And I'm going to cut it open. I'll try to follow the stem. As you can see, if I open it up, it actually is hollow all the way up the stem, unlike that false morel that had a lot of solid material in there. So I guess with ones like this, I could see how somebody could mistake them. If you're not sure, of course, don't eat it, but in this case it actually is a real morel. It just got a little deformed. So about long-term storage, you can dehydrate the morel. They dehydrate very well and rehydrate very well and hold their flavor. Now if you have a dehydrator, you can use that. But if you don't, see, our dehydrator actually broke a few years ago, but I still use the trays for drying out mushrooms. You just need something that the air can get above and below it. You can use a screen, something like that. But you need to cut them open either lengthways, or you can sort of do them like this into rings, just so the air can get to the inside. It's probably good on that one. You want good airflow. Now I generally, when I dry out mushrooms, I put them above the fridge in our house because it stays pretty warm up there. I don't know if you can see, I just cut off a part that's got a little mold or something like that growing on it. You don't really want that in your mushrooms. So as I was saying, I like to put these trays up above our fridge where it stays warm. But morels tend to have a lot of little tiny bugs in them, and because they just have so many nooks and crannies where little critters can hide. So what I'm going to do is start them out here in the garage, so I don't want all those bugs in the house. Now if I was going to eat them right away, well, I should say what most people like to do when they're going to eat them is to soak them in a solution of salt water, because that'll get rid of the bugs. Personally, I'm really not squeamish about that kind of thing. Once you cook them, the bugs are not going to hurt you. You're not going to notice them. You're not going to see them or taste them. If anything, it's just a little extra protein. But if you're worried about stuff like that, then all you need to do is soak them in a little water with salt in it for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. But if you're going to dehydrate them, it's best not to do that, because there's something about them soaking up the extra water that just kind of messes with the texture of them once you dry them back out, or I'm sorry, rehydrate them. They just don't seem to be the same. I don't know what it is. But it's best to just dehydrate them straight without washing them off first. Another method of drying them out would be to cut them open and then string them up on a string or a piece of fishing line or something like that, and then just hang them up to air dry. But this is going to bring me into the nutrition part of them a little bit, and then I'll probably come back around to the long-term storage. But morels actually, like most wild mushrooms, have a lot of vitamin D in them. I almost said vitamin C. I got another one here with just a little bit of mildew there. I'm going to cut off. So morels are high in vitamin D, very high in vitamin D. Just like our many wild mushrooms. And the reason is because they absorb it from the sun. One thing you can do as you're dehydrating mushrooms, you can dehydrate them out in the sun, and they will soak up that extra vitamin D as they're drying out, and they'll retain it. As they're dry and stored, they'll store that vitamin D in there, so that when you go to rehydrate them, they actually serve as a really rich, power-packed vitamin D supplement. So if you're a person that suffers from a vitamin D deficiency, or you live in a place where there's long, dreary winters where you don't get as much vitamin D from the sun, well, hey, try out some mushrooms in the sun and then rehydrate them in the wintertime and get that extra vitamin D. So morels also have potassium and iron and some protein in them. I did mention that the false morel has the toxin gyromitrin in it. Well, morel mushrooms actually have a toxin in them as well, called hydrazine or hydrazine. I'm not sure exactly how it's said. But the thing is, when you cook the morel, that hydrazine dissipates and it evaporates, I guess. Anyway, cooking it gets rid of it, which makes it completely safe to eat. But you don't want to eat morels raw. Now again, I'm sure somebody out there will say, I've eaten them raw and they didn't hurt me. Well, good for you. I'm telling you, it is not a good idea to eat them raw. It's best to cook them. But that brings me back around to the storage. Dehydrating is one way. Some people like to freeze them, and there's different ways you can look up. I've never done that, but different people have different methods to where they cook them first and then freeze them inside some liquid to maintain the flavor. Anyway, one thing you don't want to do, and some people do this with some mushrooms, some people will can mushrooms. Now you don't want to do that with morels, because when you can them, you seal them in the can and then cook them, and that hydrazine toxin has nowhere to go if they're inside a sealed container, so it will stay in the mushroom. So that's one method of storage that you don't want to use with morels. I'll just show you this. This is the first batch that I showed you on the video that I got 4 or 5 days ago. They're dehydrated. They're hard. So I just laid them out. I actually set them out in the sun 2 days in a row. Let them just soak up that vitamin D, dry out. They're hard and crispy now. If I tried to bend this, it would just break in half. Well, I'm putting away some dehydrated morels and oysters. And unfortunately, morel season is over, and I never did get the big mother load that I wanted to get on film for you guys. I had a bit of a down year with the morels. But I talked to some other people, some other morel hunters, and it seems like everyone I've talked to had the same story. It was just a strange year with the really warm winter we had and the lack of rain we had this spring. So it's just the way it goes. You get some good years, you get some bad years. But I've got a few jars of dehydrated ones saved up, and hopefully next year I'll be able to get out and do a little better, and if I do, I'll document some of that for you. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I at least gave you enough to pique your curiosity if you're new at this, and encourage some of you to get out and try them. America's favorite mushroom. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.